Item 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies for Daniel FD. Are there any other apologies, please? No. Item 2, substitute members. We have Councillor Mrs Daniel Belton is substituting for Councillor Daniel FD. Non-members attending? There isn't any. I just want a clarification. I've got welcome to Gary Myers. Right, okay, we'll scrub that then. Agenda item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of August. Members, for the first item, 63 to 65 Spa Road, 21/01007/full, the following minute on the resulting vote has been recorded incorrectly, and there was no mention of the chairman's casting vote. I would therefore like to move a motion as without notice to amend the minutes as follows. Have I got a seconder, please? Thank you, Mrs Mason. A motion moved by Councillor Mrs C Mason and seconded by Councillor Eaves to refuse the application on the grounds of the proposed building being dominant with bulk mass, height, flat roofs, dormers out of keeping with the street scene. An insufficiently high standard of design was lost on a show of hands by the chairman's casting vote against the motion. 4 members voted in favour of the motion, 5 against, including the chairman's casting vote, and 1 abstained. Note, Councillor Eaves, Councillor Mrs Mason, Councillor Mr Stanley wished to have it to be noted that they had voted in favour of the motion. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Stanley. That motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Item 5, to receive declarations of interest. Councillor Williams.
It's on, thank you. Item 7, non-pecuniary interest due to the fact that I'm a ward councillor for that area and also a member of Rochford Parish Council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6, 21/01134/OUT 270 Eastwood Row, Rayleigh. Okay, Katie Fowler will present the officer's report. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Chairman. This application is for the development of 65 residential dwellings and a care home on the application site. 35 of the dwellings would be affordable homes and 30 would be lifetime homes. Access is the only reserved matter for consideration at the outline stage, and the demolition of 270 Eastwood Road would be required to accommodate this. The access would be provided from Eastwood Road. As can be seen from the location plan, the application site is located to the south of Eastwood Road and to the east of Southview Close. The site extends backwards towards the A127 but does not project up to the highway. It is otherwise surrounded by land which appears to be primarily used for agricultural and light industrial purposes. The site is currently allocated as Greenbelt and serves as a domestic nursery. The site has been put forward as part of the call for sites, but the new local plan is still within its early stages and it is therefore not known whether the site would be allocated for residential development. Should go to plan 2. Thanks. An indicative layout and elevations plan have been provided for the proposal. These are indicative only, as layout, scale and appearance are reserved matters and not for determination. These plans have been provided to demonstrate how the quantum and type of development could feasibly be accommodated on the site. The application was originally brought in front of members at the Development Committee in May. The application had initially been recommended for refusal on 5 grounds relating to Greenbelt, the absence of a noise survey to assess the impact upon residential amenity, insufficient information to assess the surface water impact, insufficient information to assess the impact on air quality, and insufficient information to assess the impact of the access upon the TPO oak tree. This application was deferred from the committee following the applicant's request to provide additional information relating to the original recommended reasons for refusal. The primary considerations in the determination of this outline planning application are the principle of the development proposed within its allocation on the Greenbelt, proposed access arrangements with the acceptability, including number of vehicles on the highway network, flood risk and drainage, ecological and environmental considerations, and other matters including affordable housing, residential amenity and air quality. Code plan 3, please. So firstly, looking at the impact on the greenbelt, it is considered that the proposed development would not meet the exceptions outlined within paragraph 149 of the NPPF, and therefore would be considered as inappropriate development within the greenbelt. Given this, the development would need to amount to a very special circumstance in order to justify the harm to the greenbelt. The applicant has outlined within their submission that they believe the need for specialist accommodation for older people within the district to outweigh the identified inappropriateness of the development. It is acknowledged that both local and national policies identify the need for older people housing. However, it is considered that there are other sites within the district which would be able to accommodate a similar type of development without the harm to the greenbelt, and this is therefore not considered to amount to a very special circumstance. In addition, the Council's policy team are clear that the number of affordable homes that would be delivered by the site can be accommodated within areas outside of the greenbelt by way of allocated sites which have been recently granted planning permission or are in the process of being delivered. There are considered to be no other very special circumstances that would outweigh the harm to the greenbelt, and on this basis, officers consider the proposal to be contrary to the NPPF. In terms of the impact on the highway, access is not a matter reserved and is for consideration at the outline stage. The proposal involves the demolition of 270 Eastwood Road to provide access to the site. The plan on the screen depicts the proposed site access with 2.4 metres by 43 metre visibility space in accordance with the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit as recommended in Manual for Streets. The Highway Authority have confirmed that the visibility space would not interfere with the parking lay-by to the west. Whilst there is an existing bus stop outside of 270 Eastwood Road, this would be relocated outside of 254 Eastwood Road, which is to the west of the lay-by that serves a parking area to dwellings on the southern side of Eastwood Road. If I just point this out on the screen. So, just without pointing upon it, this is the last group of dwellings here that you can see on the screen, and below that is 254, so you can see the lay-by ends here, and so the bus stop would be moved to the further west, so down here. The local highway authority have been consulted on the application and raised no objection to the application subject to a number of recommended conditions. Therefore, the principle of the access proposed is considered by officers as acceptable. Whilst this principle in this location is accepted, consideration must be had to the impact upon neighbouring properties. The access would be located between 268A and 272 Eastwood Road and would run along the rear gardens of the properties along the eastern end of Southview Close. The proposed development would require vehicular access for visitors, staff and residents, which would have a material impact upon the adjoining neighbours, most significantly 272 Eastwood Road, which is adjoined by the residential property of 270 Eastwood Road. No noise survey has been provided with the application to enable officers to adequately consider the impact of the noise from the vehicles along this access upon neighbouring properties. Whilst the application had been deferred to allow for a noise survey to be completed, no noise survey was submitted. The Environmental Health Officer was consulted on the application and suggested conditions to overcome these. However, officers were not satisfied that these met the relevant tests, and the potential impact of noise upon residential amenity was still a concern, contrary to Policy DM1 and paragraph 185A of the NPPF. If you could go to the flood risk assessment. Thanks. The application site is located in flood zones 1, 2 and 3. So you can see on the screen the flood zone 2 and 3 mostly goes along the stream that runs through the middle of the site, and then flood zones 1 are more to the south and north pockets of it. The residential development would be entirely located in flood zone 1, with only the centre of the site falling within flood zones 2 and 3. The residential development is considered to be located within areas at lowest risk of flooding, and the development would pass the sequential and exceptions test as a result. A bridge would be constructed as part of the development, which would provide access over the central stream and to the southern part of the site. Hydraulic modelling of the bridge would be required at the reserve matter stage to inform the design. The EA are content with the information provided with regards to the bridge and consider it to provide a safe means of access and egress to properties in the southern extent. No issues are therefore raised with regard to flood risk from fluvial sources. You go to page 40. Thanks. The existing site is for the most part made up by greenfield, and the proposed development would introduce 1.48 hectares of hard standing. The increased hard standing would result in an increase of surface water runoff and volumes, and therefore the surface water discharge would need to be controlled. An amended flood risk assessment and drain strategy have been submitted with the application following initial objection raised to the potential impact. So the plan on the screen just depicts the areas that are at low and medium high risk of surface water flooding currently. So you can see that that mostly is concentrated around the stream and then a little bit tailing up towards Eastwood Road. But for the most part, it is within a low risk. But just because of the scale of the development, there were concerns about the potential for surface water runoff. If you go to Appendix I, please. So the applicant did then submit this revised drainage strategy, which included an indicative surface water plan. So the drainage strategy has detailed that an attenuation storage would be required, which would be provided in the form of a below-ground attenuation tanks for the lifetime homes and within the eastern aspect of the affordable homes. And there would be spaces for an attenuation pond or basin. So if you can see that, the attenuation pond is here, and then under the lifetime homes, which I think are here, there would be the attenuation tanks. In light of the submitted information, the lead local flood authority has raised no objection to the application, subject to the imposition of conditions where the application recommended for approval. If you could go back to Plan 3, please. Thanks. There are a number of trees subject to TPO within the site and adjoining the site. The Council's arboricultural officer is content that sufficient distance between the root protection areas of the tree within the eastern aspect tree belt, central belt along the stream, southern aspect tree belt and western aspect tree belt, and the proposed development could be maintained. However, it is unclear from the submitted information whether the TPO oak tree located on Eastwood Road could be retained by the proposal. Further information was submitted by the applicant, and this was sent to the Council's Arbour Officer, who outlined that whilst the access was clearly set out, there is still no accompanying method statement with regard to the depth of the excavation required for the footway and highway or any likely services. There is also no detail on how best this can be achieved without compromising the health of the tree and requiring its removal to the detriment of visual amenity along Eastwood Road. The potential impact of the access upon the oak tree is contrary to Policy DM25 and the aims of the MPPF. Policy DM29 advises that all major developments are required to submit an air quality assessment with their application to determine the potential cumulative impact for additional transport movements on potentially significant road junctions. Following the deferment of the application from the May Committee, an air quality assessment has been submitted, and this has been addressed in the addendum. The Council's Environmental Health Officer has been consulted in the application, and upon review of the submitted information raises no objection, concluding that the development would not cause any new exceedances of the air quality objectives. The application is recommended for refusal, Chairman, on 3 grounds of refusal, as noted within the updated Officer's report and addendum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have no public speakers for this item. The ward member here tonight is Councillor Bob Milne. Would you like to speak on this, Councillor Milne? And you have 5 minutes. Thank you. Yep, we'll do. We've got to do the ward councillors first. Councillor Norman.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, from our point of view, I know that there's been no objections because of the plan to deal with flooding, but quite frankly, knowing that area and knowing what's downwind of it, when you've got surface water runoff and you get really heavy rain, this site could cause quite a lot of problems. And I quite agree with the observations about the harm to the green belt, because we have got other sites. There's the Cherry Orchard site and others, and they're listed, some of them listed in this paper. So from that point of view, from my own point of view, and listening to the arguments, I support the conclusion that we should refuse. Thank you.
Norman.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I say what I want to say, if I could ask a question of the officer, please. You made a comment on Eastwood Road. I know that access, you said, was not part of the issue here, but I have a concern, if you could answer it for me. The bus stop for the number 22 sits, as we look at that, just above or to the east of the intended entry. And you're talking about moving it south past that. But that would then take it past Clarence Road, which would then not the bus number 22 would not be able to turn right, which it does currently, to go down Clarence Road. So that would immediately remove a bus stop for the people in that area. And it's an amenity that I'm concerned about, because there will be no bus stop. So no one could get a 22. So if they're coming from the hospital along Eastwood Road, they would have to park in a bus stop, probably another 100 metres one way, or past it the other way. Yes.
Sorry, that is not RDC's issue.
No, but
That will be, unfortunately, for your question, Essex Highways. They are the ones who will do it. So if we've got any issues there, we'll have to go back and we'll have to ask RDC, our officers, to discuss that, but we can't discuss that here at the moment.
No,
We can
I understand
actually
that, but
ask
I'm
them
asking
to-
the officer that could be raised as an issue, because I'm concerned about that particular issue
Right.
on this particular programme. Now, if I get to my point, if I may. Thank you, Chairman. I think you know where I'm going with that one. But so I'm concerned with the bus stop. But the other thing, of course, is that I'm sure every member of this committee has had a number of emails from those making application in this case. And I want to refer, first of all, to comments made, and I agree that this is part of the MPPF, you know, it's a green belt, and it's part of our local plan, etc., etc. And I thought it was quite arrogant when there was a comment made in one of the letters, or the emails, to say that this might be released anyway, you know, in the future. Well, we've got rules and regulations, and we work by those, and that's what we make our judgment on. And to simply say, oh, it might be thrown into a new policy in 2 or 3, 4 years' time, I think is quite arrogant. So I do have concerns about that. So, and the other thing is, it is a green belt area, simple as that. The other thing I come on to is the flooding issue. I am fully aware, for other reasons, of that particular river, call it what you will, waterway that runs along there, all the way up to Lower Wybarns Farm. And we've had floods where it backs up. So any reduction or controls at this end will feed back, and I have photographs I can show of housing flooding further back because of blockages and restrictions on that river. So I'm concerned about this flooding issue and any controls that might be made on that river, because it will feed back further along. Okay, so I mean I have photographs of this, so it does occur. So I'm concerned about this so-called, I'm not an expert, but this flooding issue. Now the other thing is that if I recall in one of an officer's report from previous, there was this, a letter or comments were made by the medical profession that they would be unable to supply an infrastructure for this, or support for this care home. I'm sure that's what it said. So I'm concerned that if there was a care home put there, the local people are having trouble at the moment getting doctor's appointments and so on. And any further stress or strain put on this system within this area would affect a greater population of Rayleigh for a number of reasons. And I just feel that this is the most inappropriate application, and I cannot support it. And I would support the recommendation of refusal.
Thank you very much. Do you want to come back with anything, Katie?
I don't think there's particularly anything that you were asking a question of. The only thing that I would just point out in terms of the flooding is, from my understanding of it anyway, is that there wasn't going to be the construction of anything to kind of divert the river, so then there wasn't going to be anything kind of put into the stream. It was that there was going to be a bridge over it, so then the water would flow still underneath it. That's my understanding of it.
Had there was that you showed
You've
sort
got
of a cesspool.
about 15 seconds, Councillor Longman.
Oh, it takes me that long to introduce myself,
Oh, I
Chairman.
know, I'm sorry.
So,
You should have a
but
shorter name.
You showed on the plan of another lake, and it gave me the impression that there was going to be controls there. Otherwise, what is that? So I'm concerned about that.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Mason.
Thank you, Chair. Before I go into my 5 minutes, can I ask a question of the
course you
officers, please? If we could go back to the flood picture, diagram, where it showed, no, not that one, that's the SUDS, the actual, where it showed the river. That's it, that's the one, thank
That's
you.
surface water.
Right.
Surface water or flood zone?
That's the one.
Surface water. Cool.
That's so. Thank you. And the officers has stated that the SUDS, that the design and layout is indicative. Therefore, logically, the SUDS proposal is also indicative. So I just wanted confirmation on that. The other thing that concerns me is, although it's only indicative, that blue flood zone going through the site is shown to have properties on it. The intention is to property, and I just wanted that, if I've read that correctly.
Yeah, so that is correct. So the SUD scheme put forward is only indicative. They've estimated, I think, that the site would be covered by 40% hard standing, so that's what they're working out the basis on. But if an application, say this application were approved, and a reserve matters application were to come forward, then that would be dealt with at that stage as well, so that we could make sure that the SUD scheme was adequate to whatever level of hard standing was put forward.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was the only actual question I have. I'm concerned with this application. I'm concerned about the lack of information, the fact that it has taken a considerable time to get some of the information that's been requested. If Councillor Milne is comfortable with this, I'd like to move for refusal on the grounds, especially with such development should not be approved, except in very special circumstances. And I think there's no very special circumstances that have been demonstrated, but in accordance with the items already put for refusal by the officers, which I think is a very comprehensive and full report. I must admit it confused me, it's took me ages to read it. Also, I'm concerned about the TPO, the aspect of that, so that is in the refusal. The other thing, I think Councillor Lorman actually queried the bus, and I realise that it comes under Essex County Council, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't go back, although we're refusing it, go back to Essex County Council for further clarification regarding the point of the bus route that he's raised. So that would be for clarification for any future application, and so therefore that's why I'd like it included in the refusal at this point in time, the lack of information basically. I can see Yvonne having...
On the bus stop?
Yes. The fact that that hasn't been covered by Essex County Council means that we haven't got that information. So although it's not within our remit to actually refuse on that, we can refuse without the information, as I understand it. I'm sure the solicitor will advise me if I can't.
Yeah, we're just having our officers discuss. I will ask you, Chris, if need be.
As part of the application, Essex County Council were obviously consulted and they raised no objection, and they did have consideration to the relocation of the bus stop. Prior to the submission of the application, the applicant did speak with them and negotiate about where the best location was, and that was in consultation with the Highway Authority. They decided that was the best location, and they did also recommend a condition to be included if the application were to be approved. So if it had been approved, then that condition would be on, and those details would be for the Highway Authority to agree as part of that.
Okay, well, I'm sure Councillor Lorman will be happy with that, and if he is, I am. So therefore, I move for approval on the grounds that I've outlined. If I have a seconder.
Right, we've got two here. Councillor Milne. I'll do Councillor Milne because you're all councillor. Right, so we're now talking. Sorry, what did you say? Yeah, please say, you do, Yvonne, please. We're just going to clarify something.
Can we just clarify that the reason for refusal is as per the officer's report?
Yeah,
and you're satisfied that the bus stop would be dealt with in a previous...
Yes, as per the officer's report on the items, the 3 items that are outstanding.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be reasonable for us to add in a reason for refusal on the bus stop because the Highway Authority have already...
We've already accepted that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to clarify what we were actually going to be voting on with your motion.
No, it's on the final 3 very comprehensive items for refusal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Thank you.
And I would say with an emphasis on the fact that there's no very special circumstances. I would like that emphasised.
I've got, does anyone want to speak about the motion only about refusal on the 3 items we've got? And that is all we'll be speaking about, talking about now. So, yeah, I know, but unfortunately, when the motion's on, we have to then go for that. I'm sorry, Councillor Foster. So we've got Councillor Stanley. Do you want to speak for the motion that's been put forward for refusal?
Thank you, Chairman. I do think that the motion has included the flood alleviation. Am I right?
No, no, because you've said, they've said SUDS, they haven't
Sorry,
got a problem.
I thought we was...
No, it's on. What you've got is, you've had the reasons for refusal as from the...
From the officer's report.
Yeah, as per the officer's report, yes. So it's noise impact was asked for, the oak
Green
tree
belt
and the
oak
green
tree.
belt. That's what the refusal is on. That's the 3 items. Okay?
Is there a possibility to amend
No.
that?
No, you've just been advised we can't. We've got, they've just clarified for Mrs Mason, Councillor Mrs Mason, that that is what we're voting on, is the refusal for the 3 items. And we can't put another...
I thought we could amend that to add 2.
So the SUDS matter has already been addressed. They've submitted details which the lead local flood authority are content with. So we couldn't, they've now withdrawn their holding objection, and we couldn't therefore have a reason for refusal based on surface water.
I'm sorry, I thought they were still holding on that because of where the flood alleviation is going, and it's at the...
Yeah,
it's not where it's holding water. It will take water out of the stream and put it into those areas, the attenuation and also the pond. It's no good putting a pond where a lake is already. It will only flood in there, and the water from the site will not go into the
Councillor
pond.
Stanley, we can't discuss this. We've got to go
No,
on
I thought
We've got to go with what we've had.
I thought it was held in abeyance.
Wasn't. No, we've got to,
Right,
we've just
now
had a
you've
motion on the
addressed it to
table
me. Okay.
and we've had it seconded, and that's what we've got to
Okay.
discuss now. Councillor Belton.
This council has a policy to build on brownfield first, other than in exceptional circumstances. And the exceptional circumstances stated here are regarding property for older people, such as the care home. We already have a care home being built in Rayleigh at the moment. We don't know what the uptake on that care home will be, and I can't see at all that this is an extenuating circumstance, and I would not support building on the greenbelt as a result of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, Councillor Mrs Mason, I was going to close this so we could actually have a vote.
As the proposer, I'm usually allowed to
Yeah,
speak.
okay.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
I just wanted to clarify why I didn't include the subs, because there does seem to be some confusion over that. I asked the officer, who confirmed that the SUDS is indicative, as is the layout. So therefore, that if this ever comes back to us, it will then be decided, because at the moment we're not determining that aspect of the application, as I understand it.
Yeah, so that is partially correct. So we're saying, in principle, there is a scheme on the site that would be able to address the surface water with the potential level of hard standing that would come forward. If, at the moment, that is based on a 40% coverage of the hard standing, if an application were to come forward which covered any more than that, then they would have to update their SUD scheme to reflect that as well.
Thank you. Right, members, we have a motion on the table and it has been seconded for refusal. Can I have a show of hands, please, for refusal of this application? Unanimous. Members, that is unanimous. This application has been refused. Thank you. Members, I think we'll wait, members, until the members of the public leave, and then we'll go on to item 7. If we can move a bit quickly, please. See you later. That's all right, I dive with him, he's my dive buddy. Agenda item 7, 22/005674, Airport Business Park, Cherry Orchard Way, and Claire Buckley will present the officer's report. Sorry. That's all right, no, take your time.
This application is for a proposed commercial unit under use class B8, which is a storage use, with ancillary office space together with parking, landscaping and other associated works. As you can see from this first location plan here, the site comprises an undeveloped plot within the wider business park site. So here's the site located here. The wider site is located to the east of Cherry Orchard Way, with Aviation Way and commercial units to the south, Westcliff Rugby Club and some residential dwellings to the north, and open land to the east. The second location plan here gives context to the application site within the wider airport business park. So the site is broadly rectangular in shape but follows the curve of the access route. The wider site is being developed on a plot-by-plot basis and currently comprises of the completed road, as you can see here. We've got some landscape infrastructure. We've got the Apeco Phase 1 unit. We've also got Costa Coffee over here, the Launchpad site here, and also some 12 industrial units here as well. The proposal is for a storage building for use by the company Camma. Camma is a family-run company currently based in Dagenham Docks, London, that uses digitally managed sustainable storage. They safely remove and store props, costumes, equipment, documents and artefacts that clients want to keep or dispose of, commonly working with film and TV production companies. The building will comprise a large ground floor, mostly for storage, but also with a lobby area and a small mezzanine level. So you can see this is the main building here, the main warehouse area, and then this is a very small section here, which would be the lobby with mezzanine. The mezzanine would be used as an office with storage above. Access would be to the west, where there's a large service yard proposed and 2 entrances for HGVs. So here we can see the service yard, and here is the 2 HGV entrances here. This is the main access in. And to the south and southwest is proposed parking, refuse storage and most of the soft landscaping. So here you can see this is where most of the parking is located along here. You've got some disabled bays here. This is the, I'll zoom in a little bit. This is the refuse store. So this is the refuse store here as well. So this plan here shows the northern and eastern elevations and shows the intended use of different cladding types with grey variations. A green colouring would be used to generate some colour interest. The building would measure 16.1 metres high to the ridge. Moving to plan 5. So this shows how the building would appear from the front western elevation and the south. So here we see the use of more glazing to create a feature at the corner of the building and to provide light to the lobby and office spaces, and the 2 HGV loading doors. So you can see those here as well. And then so this would be the corner section here where the lobby and office area would be located. So this section drawing shows a section through the building with the warehouse visible and the mezzanine area shown to the southwestern corner as well. So again, that just shows where that mezzanine section is well there. The key material planning considerations are the principle of development, economic benefits, highways, design, layout and appearance, landscaping, flooding and surface water drainage, BREEAM, ecology and air quality. So looking at the principle of development, A previous application at this site in 2001 was approved to vary the 2015 outline application for the wider airport business park site to enable 10,000 metres squared of B8 use to be provided versus the 1,000 metres squared previously approved in 2015. Whilst this current application represents an application in its own right, independent of the outline application, the 2015 and subsequent 2021 applications referred to, which approved a greater quantum of B8 use, are material to the current application and confirm the approach previously considered acceptable by the Council. This approach was subject to consultation and had the support of the Council's Strategic Policy and Economic Development team, and still does. The proposal, alongside other flexible use permissions already granted, would result in the 10,000 metre squared figure being exceeded by 301 metres squared, but this is considered to be marginal. There is no objection to the principle of the development here. Looking at economic benefits, the submitted economic benefits statement advises that the proposal would generate around £55,000 in business rates revenue per annum for Rochford and promote job creation. This represents new inward investment into the district. And looking at highways, the proposed development will provide 23 car parking spaces, including 2 accessible spaces and 3 motorbike parking spaces. This is marginally in excess of maximum parking standards. The parking bay sizes are proposed to be 2.5 metre wide by 5 metre long, as per other plots on the airport business park. The development will also provide 16 cycle parking spaces. The transport assessment confirms that the proposal is not expected to have a significant impact upon the local transport network, and a draft travel plan has been produced. Looking at design, layout and appearance, the design approach is consistent with that which has been previously consented across the business park and incorporates the use of high quality and contemporary materials such as grey metal sheet cladding. The urban design consultant advises that it is broadly in line with the design code for this plot and raises no objection. Looking at landscaping, the soft landscaping proposed is predominantly around the perimeter and includes new tree planting, new grassed areas, ornamental shrub planting, hedge planting and a native buffer mix. Hard landscaping includes concrete hard standing within the service yard and permeable block paving to the parking bays. A 2.4 metre high perimeter metal fence will be proposed as boundary treatment. The landscaping proposed is considered acceptable. Looking at flooding and surface water drainage, the site is located within flood zone 1. Storage will be provided in geocellular storage, permeable paving and filter drains where appropriate, and would link to the site-wide SUD system. The lead local flood authority has no objection to the proposed development, subject to the conditions attached as part of the officer's recommendation. And then looking at BREEAM, a BREEAM pre-assessment details that the scheme would achieve a rating of very good. An attainment level of very good is considered acceptable here and is in accordance with policy. Moving on to ecology, the preliminary ecological appraisal submitted concludes that the overall impact of the proposal is considered to be neutral. And then air quality, finally. The air quality assessment submitted has a requirement for measures around dust emissions during construction. This requires inspection logs to be available to the council when requested. This application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions outlined in the officer's report.
Thank you very much, Claire. We have one speaker on this. It's Mr. Nick Dimmitt. And I always get your name wrong. I do so apologise. So we've got the table there. Again, you know the form. We've got 5 minutes and then one. I'll let you know when there's 1 minute to go.
Thank you, Chair. Do I switch
No,
on?
it's already
on.
It's already on, yeah.
Great.
You can move it up or near you if you need to.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Chair. My name is Nick Diamond and I'm HBD's planning agent. As set out in your officer's report, this application seeks full planning permission for a commercial unit to be operated by CAMA and is recommended for approval. CAMA leads the way in providing digitally managed sustainable storage to a wide range of corporate clients, including film and television industry. They also provide an online platform and marketplace for productions to manage, store, sell or donate their assets. This represents a real contribution to the circular economy, and the benefits of which have been recognised by the chair of the Thames Estuary Growth Board. CAMA's decision to relocate from Dagenham Docks to Rochford represents further inward investment for the district, and in so doing supports your economic growth strategy. The economic benefit statement submitted alongside the application concluded that the proposal would support 37 on-site full-time employees in addition to circa 83 jobs during construction. Both your planning and economic development officers agree that the proposal complies with the strategic aims of the district's planning and economic development policies. The unit will be of high quality specification and complement the surrounding built form, including IPECO to the east and the Innovation Hub to the north. Signage and active frontages are to be provided on the southeastern corner to break up the massing and improve legibility. The accompanying transport statement considered vehicle movements, including HGVs. When we presented recently to members, HGVs in the context of the airport business park were raised. The proposal will have a minimum impact on the highway network, and the small proportion of HGV movements, approximately 34 two-way daily and only 1 to 2 trips in the peak, can be comfortably accommodated on the network. In conclusion, the proposal before you accords with the aspirations of the JAP, will further complement the offering of the airport business park and deliver economic benefits and employment opportunities to the district. We therefore ask that you follow your officer recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one ward member here, is Councillor Williams. Again, Councillor Williams, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I thoroughly welcome this proposal, and in fact would like to propose now that we accept this. Thank you.
Has anyone got, have you got a seconder? Yeah. Oh, we've got a hands at Councillor Foster was the first up. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to speak for acceptance. I said yeah, sorry, it's acceptance, approval, sorry. So Councillor Stanley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, there are 3 things I'd like to ask the officers. Is there anywhere on the site for fauna and flora area? And also, how many electric charging vehicle points are there? And
12,
how many disabled parking bays are there, please?
Councillor Stanley, 7.6, 2.5, that will give you all the details that you need to know on the parking and the charging, disabled, etc. And
No, I beg your pardon.
that's not a problem. I don't know where the fauna and flora are, but I know that is because I've just been reading it.
I didn't hear anything on that.
No, but we... Oh, sorry, my watch is talking. He didn't understand what you said, sorry. No, that wasn't, but it is in. That's why we had the report to read before we come to committee, so it is in there. I do apologise, members. I'll put my watch away. He didn't understand what Councillor Stanley was saying. Sorry. Fauna and flora? Please, sorry.
So there is soft landscaping. It's mostly going to be, so you've got a small section to, that's the wrong way around. That would help, doesn't it? To the north there, but also then the predominant amount would be along these sections, along the frontage here, and then curving back round to this area along here. This is where the majority of the soft landscaping would be, so sort of surrounding the parking bays. It's got strategic, I mean the actual wider site has a whole parcel of strategic landscaping outside of this main red line site boundary, but the wider actual business park site has strategic landscaping running through it. So you see this section here, that's a strategic landscape area there as well. But the actual site itself will have an element of soft landscaping itself. And we have details of that, and we've controlled that by condition as well in terms of them needing to comply with what they've given us in terms of detail.
Thank you. All I'm asking is that we put in what is natural to the area in the way of trees or shrubs and that sort of thing. So I'd like to make that clear. That's what we need to do. Thank you.
I think what they've actually provided us with is a mixture of some ornamental, some native buffer mix. So there will definitely be an element of native there mixed in with some ornamental as well, just to sort of give a bit of a differing of appearance. So taking on a bit of a blend of the two.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, is there anyone else who would like to speak with Councillor Mrs Mason?
Yeah, I'm sure we've all read this report, but it's necessarily, these reports are lengthy and complex, and we don't necessarily recall everything in them. So do forgive me if I ask a question that's in the report. I see no indication of any photovoltaic panels or solar panels. Has that been considered in this application? Because with such a large expanse of roof, it would be a shame if that opportunity wasn't taken advantage of, shall we say, especially in the light of the present situation. So, if I may ask that question, and I have read the report.
No, there isn't reference within the report to it, and we don't have a condition controlling that at the present time within the officer report as
Would
it
it
stands.
be possible, would Councillor Wilkinson be, sorry, Williams, wrong day, would you be happy to put that in as a recommendation? I know we can't put it in as an actual condition, but apart from that aside, that one small point aside, I would say it's very good to see an application that benefits both the community and is policy compliant. So I would certainly support approval.
Would you like to come back on that?
We're just, I think, currently just researching our policy requirement for the 10% renewable that we often do attach to applications, what sizing of floor space it is required for commercial, because there is a certain requirement in terms of how we apply a policy, isn't there?
Would you like to hear what Councillor Williams is saying while you're looking
Yes,
that
of
up?
course,
Is
yeah.
that okay, Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say that, thank you, Councillor Mrs Mason. Yeah, I would be more than happy to have a condition that any renewable energy should be considered. That's all really, I don't think we can insist on it, but yeah, it should be considered
A recommendation.
as a recommendation.
Just let our officers. Right. Can you whistle that people need to hear? Thank you. That's all right, no problem.
Hello. Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, how many HGVs were going to be using the site per day? I missed it. 29 a day. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I think we've got an answer for Councillor Mrs Mason and Councillor Williams. No, perhaps we haven't. Wait a minute.
There's an apology for that. I'm not good with that.
Yes, so our policy requires or allows us to apply the 10% renewable if it's more than 1,000 metres squared. We just needed to double check what the figure was, and that does exceed it in this case, so we can impose that condition if you consider it.
We can do it as a condition.
Yes, we can add that as a
Excellent.
condition.
Excellent. Would you like to?
Certainly go with that, thank you.
So you want the condition for solar panels or renewable energy?
If it's possible to do so, yes, please.
Thanks. That's
Photovoltaic panels, basically.
I'll say solar panels, it could be something else, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so what we...
Renewable energy, that
Yeah.
makes more sense than solar panels because
Yeah.
things move along, as Councillor Belton most probably will tell me. Are we okay? Yeah. Are we okay with that, officers? Can we go to the vote? Are you all right? Thank you. Members, we have a motion on the table for acceptance, approval, and I have a show of hands in favour of this application. That, members, is unanimous. Thank you. Item 8. It's the 21/00673 full, Rainbow's End, Beaches Road, Rawrath. Katie Fowler, you'll be the officer, yes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The application site is located on the northern side of Beaches Road. The site is adjoined by the River Crouch to the north and Beaches Road to the south. So if we're just looking at the plan on the screen, the application site is outlined in red here, and then the larger blue area reaches up to the Crouch at the top, and then Beaches Road to the south here. The site is adjacent to the businesses Drake Trees and Wildflower Travelling Tea Party, which are located to the west. The application site is located towards the junction of Beaches Road and Chelmsford Road. To the east of the site, the street becomes immediately more rural in character by comprising open fields which are absent of built form. The applicant has lived on the site within the mobile home since temporary permission was granted for the agricultural occupancy in 2019, and in a previous mobile home on the site since June 2016. Planning permission is sought for the proposed use of land for the stationing of 2 mobile homes to be used by the applicant and his daughter as a Romani Gypsy family. One of the mobile homes is the existing mobile home on the site that was permitted in 2019, and this would be retained. An additional mobile home would be brought onto the site and positioned along the southern boundary. It is understood that the daughter has also moved onto the site, and the application is retrospective. For just looking at the plan, this is the existing mobile home here, and this is where the proposed new mobile home would be sited. The applicant claims gypsy and traveller status. The applicant has provided a personal statement which discusses his nomadic lifestyle which he and his parents led growing up. This involved moving around to work on farms and trading horses during the touring season. The family eventually moved to Essex to conduct farm work. The applicant has also provided details of work that he has undertaken as a third person representing the travelling community. The applicant has stated in their personal statement that he is now of an age where he feels he should settle and care for his daughter who has mental health issues. On a balance of probabilities, the applicant has been considered to meet the definitions set out in the planning policy for traveller sites. The principal consideration of the application is the impact of the development upon the greenbelt. The policies relating to this are laid out within the officer's report. The proposal would introduce 2 permanent mobile homes on what was essentially an undeveloped field. The proposal for residential development would be considered to constitute urban sprawl within the greenbelt, equating to inappropriate development that is harmful by definition. The development must therefore demonstrate that there are very special circumstances which outweigh the harm to the greenbelt. Policy H7 of the core strategy sought to allocate 15 pitches by 2018, and this was reflected through the allocation of GT1 at Michelin's Farm. Due to various complications and difficulties, development of this site is yet to commence, and the Council have not exercised its power to compulsory purchase. There are no other available allocated or public sites available for occupation within the district, and therefore the Council's requirement to deliver gypsy and traveller pitches must be accommodated elsewhere. Further to this, the latest formal assessment of the district's need identified the need of up to 18 additional pitches for households meeting the PPTS definition of a traveller, with a further 3 pitches for households where it is unknown whether the definition is met. There has been the recent granting of planning permission for 5 pitches, and therefore there remains a need for at least 13 pitches dedicated to households meeting this definition. As such, the Council are unable to demonstrate a 5-year supply of sites for gypsy and travellers, and this should be given significant weight in the Greenbelt balance. In addition, the lack of alternative provision should also be attached significant weight. The applicant states within the Human Rights Questionnaire that there are no available pitches with family members locally, and they are unable to stay on any mixed communal or council site as it is traditional for Romani gypsies to travel and stay in small family groups. The applicant has pointed out that whilst Romani gypsies and Irish travellers are affected by the same problems of accessing services, accommodation and health issues, they are still quite different in several cultural practices. These cultural differences can lead to issues on site, and the applicant does not feel that at his age and with his daughter's health issues that they would be equipped for the confrontational situations that occur on shared public sites due to the differences between cultural transient groups. The proposed mobile homes would serve the applicant and his adult daughter. Due to cultural traditions, it would be inappropriate for the applicant to share a mobile home with his daughter, and this leads to the requirement for the second mobile home. The applicant's daughter suffers from mental health issues, and a letter from her psychiatrist confirms that there are concerns over her living independently, and the applicant is providing regular support in the interest of her health and well-being. The applicant is required to stay locally due to being responsible for caring for his 3 grandchildren 3 days a week, and so that his daughter has access to her registered doctors. Therefore, while substantial weight is given to the harm to the Greenbelt, significant weight is also attached to the need for gypsy and traveller sites, the lack of supply of sites, particularly the uncertainty in bringing forward the only allocated site, the absence of local policy, and the lack of available alternative accommodation for the applicant and his daughter with accessibility to health services. In this case, there are a number of matters which are considered to weigh significantly in favour of the application, and this conclusion would be consistent with the outcome of recent appeal decisions. Subsequently, the cumulative weight of these very special circumstances would clearly outweigh the substantial harm arising from the inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. In terms of the impact of the development and upon other considerations, there have been no reports of the residential development causing noise or disturbance, given the substantial distance to any nearby residential properties. The site would be accessed through an existing access on Beaches Road and would not cause conflict with highway safety. As a mobile home is existing, it is understood there is an existing septic tank on site that both mobile homes would utilise for foul drainage. There are no trees of significance located on the site. However, the hedgerow along the southern boundary offers a degree of amenity and screening. To understand the landscaping vision on site, a condition has been recommended to outline the soft and hard landscaping. The application site is located in Flood Zone 3, and as a mobile home, the use would fall within the category of highly vulnerable development. In the first instance, the development must pass a sequential test. Given the cultural requirements of the applicants, the proposal requires a real location which falls to the greenbelt in which there are no available or affordable alternative sites within the district. However, as a highly vulnerable development, the PPG indicates that this type of development should not be permitted in Flood Zone 3, and the EA have objected to the application on this basis. Nonetheless, temporary plan permission for the siting of a mobile home has been granted on the site, and this does not expire until October 2022. Within this application, it was concluded that as the Council's emergency plan accepted the flood risk to the occupants and that the proposed risk was able to be managed through the flood response plan, the flood risk was acceptable. The proposed development would involve the addition of one mobile home, and that would be used by the same family unit. As such, it is not considered to have a greater material flood risk on the site. Whilst this would not be the usual approach taken to such an application, as permission has been granted during this conclusion, it would be unreasonable for the Council to refuse an application now on site where the development had already been considered acceptable in the flood zone, given that there would not be a net increase of family units. Subsequently, the application is recommended for approval, Chairman, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got no public speakers on this. The ward councillors are Councillor Cripps and Councillor Stanley. Do either of you would like to speak? Well, do both of you want to speak on this? Councillor Cripps.
Yes,
Councillor
please.
Cripps.
Do you want to speak?
Yeah, again, Councillor Cripps, you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to cut straight to the conclusion, paragraph 6.1. It's quite brief, just one paragraph. However, the officer's report and the conclusion make it clear that the decisive issue here is the non-provision of the 15-pitch allocation via the local plan. We are now 4 years beyond the delivery deadline, and so have seen a series of applications, all of which were cited in the officer's report as precedent. The most worrying thing to come out of an appeal decision on one of those was the inspector's view that he sees no indication of a policy solution coming forward in the foreseeable future. So, I cannot, in all honesty, disagree with the officer's conclusion because they have no other option. But equally, I cannot vote for a default policy which continues to use the green belt as a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, may I ask the officers, does this new caravan that is on site and has not got permission to go on site until we say so, does this constitute part of the travellers' units that we have to supply? Also, the shed that is there, is that to be demolished and taken away permanently, or is another shed going to be put in its place or place of? Although the applicant is there, it would seem that obviously it doesn't say where the applicant or where the daughter was before moving in with her father. There's obviously some sort of deviation there somewhere with this application. I don't understand that part. Also, the recommendations or the conditions that you've put in for green round it or hedging or something like that, it looks to be in two different places. So is is that going to be continued on both sites? Because that is, I know it's one site, but it's both pitches. Do we consider them to be two pitches? I don't really see, although recommendation by the officers is that we should accept it, but again, this is on Greenbelt land, and I don't really see special circumstances in that respect of what is said as mental health here. Although the doctor has said it's mental health and she requires constant looking after, that goes for a lot of circumstances where we are having, or parents are having to have their children at home because of that circumstances. And to put another caravan up, I don't see that as a special circumstance at all. Nevertheless, with that recommendation, what the officers have said, I'll go with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Constable.
Yes, I'm against the application on the basis of the siting of the caravan on Beaches Road. As all of us that use that road, that can be a very fast and very busy road at times, and they're siting a caravan right next to the road, which is going to stand out like a sore thumb. I'm against the application on the basis where the caravan is going to be sited, as it is next to the road. If the daughter has mental health issues, siting a caravan next to a very busy road, I can't see that being very good for her health. And on the basis of where the caravan is sited, I'm against that proposal, and I'd like to move a motion on that basis.
Have you a seconder? So, would you like to come back, officers?
So there, as Councillor Stanley pointed out, there is a condition relating to landscaping. So at the moment there is some hedging along the road which does act as screening, and that condition acts to control that so that we are able to maintain a degree of screening and to try and lessen the impact of the development upon the public realm.
Yeah, but a mobile caravan, by its very definition, is 3 metres in height, and the mobile caravan, once it's off the ground, is another 2 foot off the ground. So the hedging would have to be 3 or 4 metres high to screen the caravan, and that's my basis on being against that proposal. It's purely on the position of the siting of the caravan.
Officers are going to come back.
So it's our understanding that the dense hedgerow there does screen the impacts thoroughly enough to an extent that it doesn't harm the street scene or when viewed from the highway in relation to the impact on the wider area.
It's still a caravan parked next to a main road, and you know, that's my opinion anyway.
Is Yvonne?
You can't, I mean, I've been to the site recently, it's not
Can't hear a word you're saying.
Well, I've asked for the microphone to be put on, so sorry, my apologies. I've been to the site recently, and it's not until you actually get onto the site that you can actually really see the caravan that's actually alongside the hedgerow. There's a dense hedgerow on Beaches Road. You've got some sort of stable buildings, and then you've got one mobile caravan, which is the proposed new one, and then there's the existing one deeper into the site.
Yep.
Although that plan there shows that it's abutted right up against the boundary, on that boundary is a dense hedgerow. So it's not that you're driving past the site and immediately seeing the caravan.
Right, but it's still a noise. In my opinion, it's a noise aspect for the owners, and as it's been stated, she has mental health issues. I'm just a little bit concerned about the position of the caravan.
Okay,
and that's
so,
my-
so the application is obviously for the use of the land for stationing the caravan.
Yep.
What we could do is ask for a layout plan to be submitted that shows how the site would be laid out, notwithstanding what's submitted on this application. My only concern is that if you was to put forward a motion for refusing the application based on the location of the caravan and its impact on the mental health of the daughter, I believe, actually will be living in the caravan that's further into the site. That's my understanding. Is that right, Katie?
My understanding is not
It's the
that.
other way round, is it? My apologies.
My understanding,
yeah.
only because this is the existing one and that is where the applicant was living, and this is the proposed new one that was brought onto the site. But I haven't visited it
Well,
recently,
the play equipment, the child's play equipment, is all round the caravan that's deeper into the site.
If the caravan was sited in a different position away from the main road, then obviously that would address my concerns. But my concerns is, you know, the size of a mobile caravan is quite large. I know you say it's not that visible, but like you say, she's got mental health issues, and that's my concern. So,
If, you're saying you could ask for a new site plan, better site plan. Could we then defer this item until you get that? I'm having a shake of the head. No?
we could condition it.
Well, you could
Yeah,
condition
we
it,
can
but
condition it.
that you get a better site plan.
Not, it would be an alternative site plan so that they could revise the layout and show an alternative positioning of the mobile home that's currently along Beaches Road.
Because we've got a member saying that he will not support this because of the site plan we've got so far. And I'm very concerned that we're going to vote on something that we could actually then ask for another
Well, we can
plan.
condition...
I'm a bit confused, please.
Yeah, we can condition an approval, because what we're approving here, what's before committee, is the change of use of the land for the siting of the caravan.
Right.
So we could put a condition on that requires the applicant to submit a layout plan that shows exactly how the site is going to be laid out. And what they could do on that layout plan is show in more detail the depth of the existing hedgerow and how it's not abutted right up against the boundary, which is indicated here. I mean, it's not particularly helpful, that plan. And then that, we can then assess that and then take a view as to whether or not we consider that to be acceptable or not.
Yeah. Right, at the moment, I've got Councillor Foster, Councillor Mason, Councillor Stanley and Councillor Williams wants to speak. So Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got two questions. On point 1.1, page 8.2, paragraph 3. It talks about when Mr. Barry Taylor moves or ceases to occupy, the land gets cleared. So my question is twofold, really. One is, when he ceases to occupy for whatever reason, does that force his daughter out? If, let's say, he died for the sake of argument, does that force his daughter out, and if so, to where? And secondly, if that does happen and the land has to be cleared, who pays for it?
Thank you. So the condition currently reads that the use is permitted to Mr. Barry Taylor and his dependent, but then goes on to say that when the land ceases to be occupied by Mr. Barry Taylor and doesn't specify the dependent. But what we could do is amend it to include and his dependent, so that if, for example, if he passed away, then the dependent could carry on to live there.
Okay, thank you. And part two of the question,
Sorry, could you repeat that part?
if at some point it does happen that it has to be cleared, who pays?
That would be for the applicant to pay, or the dependent.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mrs Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I think we all have some concerns on this. Councillor Foster's question addressed one of my concerns, but I still would like to ask another question regarding the personal circumstances, not the personal circumstances per se, obviously. But this is a personal occupation, a grant of occupation, and I haven't seen, forgive me if I've missed it, I haven't seen any time span on that. Would it be possible to perhaps put, say, a 5-year time span on that, so that if circumstances change, then we can readdress this? And I also note the comments by the councillors about the location on site, and that it can be determined whether it's acceptable with a site plan, but we're trying to make a decision here in the committee that puts the decision back to the officers, which does leave some element of concern, with all respect to the officers, because the decision-making body should be here. This is a personal permission for the applicant, and I think we all have great sympathy, but regardless of the other reasons for determination of this retrospective application, it is just so regrettable that we have to judge this against the failure of this council to implement its core strategy that was adopted in 2011. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley. Thank you, Ms. Messer.
I'm still waiting for an answer on the questions that I asked.
Sorry, I thought you'd actually received them.
No, I haven't.
No. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Sorry, I thought you had. Sorry, Councillor Stanley. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we've
thank
got
you.
3 to do, yeah.
So in terms of the pitches, the new caravan, because they form one family unit, it just forms one pitch. It's not 2 separate pitches. So it would be one single pitch. And I'm not aware of a shed on the site, so I'm not sure about whether it would be demolished as part of the application, because it hasn't formed part of the application. But it could be something that you could raise with the enforcement team to cover that.
Only the shed is supposed to, I believe that the shed is either very close or on that corner as well, which we are talking about, and it's replacing, the caravan will replace the shed, basically. So where is the shed going to go? Because we're going to have 3 buildings on there, and we're sort of saying have 2. I mean, I don't see any reason why the caravan has to be placed on that corner. Why can't it go adjacent to or alongside the original caravan? I don't see any reason why that, and then that would cure all of our problems. And as it is one site, I'm very sceptical of how many more people in the family are going to have a caravan on the site to make it one site. So can a condition be made towards that, in that no other caravans for anyone to go on that site unless we are going to make it a pitch site? Please.
So can I just state, the member of the public, we cannot take any questions. No, sorry, we cannot. Sorry. Thank you.
Just to assist members, so they understand how the site is set out at the moment, along here there are some outbuildings that it's understood that they're used for the equestrian use on the site. There's some ponies or horses on the site, and then you've got like a paddock area here, and then on the other side of the paddock area is the building. So it's not like this is like a vast open space. This plan isn't particularly helpful. Appreciate that for members, but as I say, there's buildings along here, paddock area in the middle there, and then you've got the site, and there's a track that runs up to the agricultural buildings that are at the top here. I don't know if that assists you. But as I say, as mentioned previously, we can ask for a more detailed layout plan.
The reason that I'm concerned with it is the fact that both units have a waste to go to. Both units will actually use a cesspit, if you like, which is either at the other end of the field or this end of the field. We don't know which. I'm really worried about the hygiene way it's being planned at the moment. It looks a bit higgledy-piggledy in as much as why can't that unit be put alongside the original one, and you can then it'd be easier to accommodate whatever problems there may be. Where it is at the moment, it's a problem because it's near the stables and so on, and I don't see how somebody is going to have peace of mind if they're in a mental stage with horses jumping in the box and that sort of thing, making a racket, when that is not the right place for it to be. And I would suggest, if I may, Chairman, that the unit should be up with the other area, not with the horses or the stables, because that would just increases the problem. I don't see that is the right way to go about it. That's my view, anyway. And I don't know. Can we make a condition to defer this to?
No, we've been told we can't defer it because I asked that question. Right, I did ask that if we could, but they said our officers said we couldn't defer it. We've got to vote either approval or refusal, and they will then go back and ask for a better plan. Which Councillor. We can now defer it, yeah?
Well, no, we can.
Can.
We were suggesting that
Not
it could be dealt with by a condition, which would obviously save the committee time in bringing it back to committee. But if members want that certainty, then we can defer.
Right. So what do I do with the motion that we had on the table for refusal?
Well, we need to still answer Councillor Stanley's questions because he's got some other questions.
Councillor Mrs Mason for the 5 year.
Vote on Councillor Mrs Mason's.
Councillor Mrs Mason had a query about putting 5 years on it, didn't you? Yeah, you didn't. Yeah.
The other thing, I'd like to bring this up because it's confusing. The officer has just said paddocks. In the report on 2.2, it says it is evident from aerial photographs that a menage, I don't know how you pronounce it, menage has been erected between the two mobile homes, which probably explains the sighting. So, and that hasn't got permission. So that's possibly why we have this difficulty over the sighting. And certainly I think deferment would be, there's too many issues here that haven't been adequately addressed, and I know we're all concerned about it. We're also concerned that we have someone who has a difficult situation, a personally difficult situation, and I'm sure as a council we want to help them, but at the same time we have policies that we should comply by, and it's a difficult one because the heart says yes, approve it. The logic on the council's failure says that perhaps we shouldn't, and my suggestion would be that if we defer it, then hopefully the areas of concern that we're all concerned about could be addressed, and we can then approve it.
Right. Can we... Sorry, Katie?
Sorry, I just didn't know if Mrs Mason wanted me to come back on her questions.
The time factor?
Yeah,
yes,
so in terms of the time span, we haven't considered it reasonable in this instance to imply such a condition because in the recent appeals decisions for Gypsy and Traveller sites, they found that it wasn't reasonable because we have this personal condition which says that the use would cease when it's no longer occupied by the applicant or their dependents. That means that the use wouldn't be necessarily a permanent thing on that site in forever anyway. So it hasn't been determined that it would be reasonable to impose such a condition on other recent applications that are similar, and that's why we haven't sought that in this instance.
I thought because the reasoning was for one of mental health, that was hopefully not optimistically not a long-term situation. But I defer to the officer's experience on that.
Members.
My motion, which was seconded.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to establish before everyone, I was trying to give everyone a chance to speak, and now we've had another one to say we'd like to defer it. So I'm really sorry, Constable, I have not got a clue which way we've got to go on this first. What votes? I have seen you, Councillor Norman, but I'm trying to find out the correct procedure.
Well, if it would help, I'm happy to change my motion to deferring it, subject to another site plan with a different arrangement for the caravans, if that is
More
possible.
comprehensive site plan.
Yes, and well,
Better siting.
Recite the caravan before it comes back. Different plan showing the caravan in a different position.
Okay, so we've got a new.
Possible.
Yeah, we could do that. And
If I got a
Councillor Mason, did you?
I'll second that.
Right. Okay, members, can we go for this motion? Yeah, Councillor Belton.
Thank you. I mean, obviously the situation's changed since I put my hand up, but I can support a deferment because ultimately the people are already living on this site, so it's not going to change their circumstance in the short term. It's not an urgent application in that sense, so I think that's sensible. I don't know that we should be saying they have to change the siting of the caravan, because I think we need to see the site location plan first, because by all intents and purposes, that looks like an old plan that's potentially not the greatest, and it doesn't show the other outbuildings and so on. But ultimately, what we're supposed to be deciding, if I understand it, is that we're happy for another dwelling to be within that site and occupied, not necessarily the specific site. But I think given the circumstance, deferment makes sense just to cover peace of mind, and I'd support that.
Thank you.
Make it a bit clearer.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Ultimately, as a council, we failed to meet our obligation of supplying sufficient gypsy and traveller sites. Therefore, in this case, I cannot possibly support a refusal. I could possibly support deferral at this time, but certainly not a refusal.
Yeah, the motion is for deferral, not refusal now. Councillor Norman, we are talking on deferral.
Chairman, it's got a life of its own. Chairman, I've got no issue with that. It's just that I was going to suggest something separate, but I'm happy with the deferment.
Okay, members, so we have a motion on the table and it's been seconded for deferral of this application. And officers, are you okay with what we're deferring it on?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to...
Yeah, but I say for the reasons why we want it deferred.
So we're going to go back to the applicant and obviously relay the information that's come from the committee, that there's concerns about the siting of the caravan alongside Beaches Road, and ask them to submit a revised site layout to bring back to committee.
Yes, perhaps if we can have in future, ask the applicants to give us a better site plan, which would help us a great deal without having to go around this as well. It would be a lot helpful. Right, members, can we have a show of hands for approval for deferral, please? Show of hands, please. Yep. Against, members? 2. So that has been carried. 4 for deferral, 2 against. Thank you, members. 10 for, 2 against. 10 for, yeah. Stop it, stop it, Councillor Stanley. My watch is confused. You've confused my watch automatically. Thank you, members. Item agenda 9/1, 22/003714, land opposite Bricklayers Arms, Tenders Avenue, Rayleigh. Katie Fowler will present the officer's report. Over to you, Katie, please.
It's Claire.
Oh, no, it's all right. It's on my note. It says Katie Fowler. Sorry. Sorry, that's changed. That'll be Claire. Over to you, Claire, please.
So this application is to demolish the existing dilapidated stables. Sorry, I'll move the thing. Sorry. Demolish the existing dilapidated stables, subdivide the plot into 3 and construct a 1-bedroom new build bungalow with access and drive onto Trenders Avenue in Rayleigh. As you can see from the location plan, the site is located on the eastern side of Trenders Avenue and is noticeably open with the absence of much built form, with the exception of 2 buildings, as you can see here, and some paddock fencing. To the north of the site is open land, with some buildings located. To the east, again, is open land and residential garden. To the south is Goldsmith Drive, and then we have a residential and commercial site known as Urquhart House. The site is located within the Greenbelt. The existing buildings consist of a square-form single stable and then a rectangular building providing 3 stables without a roof. As you can see here, this is the square stable, looking like this, and the rectangular one where we don't currently have the roof trusses remain, but the majority of the roof has gone over time. Just to show you a photo, this is just what the site looks like at the moment. So as you see, that's that square building, the rectangular one here as well. The proposal would demolish these buildings and construct an L-shaped bungalow in approximately the same position as these buildings. There would be a new vehicular crossover and driveway into the site with parking area and garden. So as you can see here, this is where the actual bungalow would be located. You can just about see, I can zoom in a little bit, the actual red markings of where the existing buildings are. You can see where the garden area is intended to be, new access and parking area here. I'll just zoom in slightly and then you can see where those red lines are, which actually show the existing building as well. So there are those lines here. You can see the rectangular building just about there, and the red one, and the square building is sort of hidden underneath there. So this plan shows the design of the bungalow proposed. It would be of a simple design, traditional of the dwelling style within Trenders Avenue, with a pitched roof and gable ends. Materials proposed would include facing brick, render and horizontal black timber cladding. The key material planning considerations are greenbelt, impact on character, residential amenity, garden size, sustainability, highway safety, refuse and recycling, and trees and ecology. So looking at the greenbelt, the site is located within the greenbelt where policies exist controlling development. The NPPF sets out that the construction of new buildings is inappropriate in the greenbelt unless the proposal would fall under one of the specified exceptions. The site represents previously developed land, being previously used as stables, which represents one of the exceptions listed. A site which is previously developed land must also ensure that the proposed development would not have a greater impact on the openness of the greenbelt. The site is approximately 5 square metres less in floor space than the existing buildings, but does have an average height increase of approximately 0.8 metres. The building would be sited in the same position as the existing buildings. The height increase is minimal, and bearing in mind the reduction in floor space, it is not considered that the proposal would have a greater impact on openness than the existing buildings. The proposal is considered to form appropriate development within the greenbelt. It should be noted that this application represents a resubmission of a previously refused scheme in 2021. This previous application was only refused due to the lack of an ecological survey. It was not refused for greenbelt reasoning. Looking at impact on character, the simple design is traditional for other bungalows along Trenders Avenue, and this is considered acceptable. Residential amenity, so the proposal would not be considered to give rise to overlooking, overshadowing or an overbearing impact on residential amenity. All existing residential properties are a reasonable distance from the proposed dwelling. Looking at garden size, the garden area proposed equates to 764 metres squared, well in excess of the 100 metres squared requirement. Looking at sustainability, the proposed scheme is for a single-storey, 1-bedroom, 2-person dwelling. Its sizing would accord with the technical housing standard requirements. Then highway safety, the site would provide an area to the front of the dwelling that would be able to provide at least 2 off-street parking spaces, measuring to the preferred bay size in accordance with the parking standards. Refuse and recycling, the site is considered to provide adequate space for the council's 3-bin system. And then finally, looking at trees and ecology. So the trees located on the site are not of great significance. It is unlikely that any impact would result from the proposal upon these trees. Therefore, no objection is raised. There is no evidence of the presence of bats at the site. The application was previously refused due to the lack of an ecological survey, particularly around great crested newts. Whilst there remains a lack of survey information provided, the applicant has entered into the Essex District Licensing Scheme, and an impact assessment and conservation payment certificate has been provided and countersigned by Natural England. In addition to this, the need for a Great Crested Newt licence or other form of mitigation has been controlled by planning condition. As a result, the previous reason for refusal has been overcome and the Council's ecological consultant no longer objects to the proposal. This application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions outlined in the officer's report, but also with the inclusion of a further condition, number 8, controlling the size of the residential curtilage. So this does not appear in the officer report, nor does it appear on the addendum, but I'm just going to show you the description now. It's just to try and control, making sure that the curtilage is of a reasonable size and not extending to the whole site area. Oh, sorry, that's not that. So this is the condition wording we're proposing for condition number 8. So the residential curtilage of the dwelling hereby approved should only include the area shown hatched and outlined in green on the approved layout drawing number 452. At no time shall the wider application site be used as residential curtilage. I'll just show you the plan that we've drawn up to go alongside that. Let me turn it, sorry. Where's my turny thingy? Sorry, bear with me a minute. Apparently I can't rotate, don't have permission. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Oh, now it's upside down now. Oh, no, really? It's getting late, isn't it? Oh. Right, there we go. Sorry, we got there eventually. Right, so this is the green hatching we're suggesting. It's just to avoid, because the actual overall site area is shown as this whole dashed line here. And if we were to grant permission, we want to make sure that that whole area is not considered to be residential curtilage. So that condition just controls it to be the area that they've identified actually as well, but it just gives that extra control over that. So we've identified it as a particular condition as well.
Thank you, Katie. We've got all councillors are Councillor Cripps and Councillor Stanley. Councillor Cripps, please.
I think the added condition number 8 covers the point I was going to raise in boxing in the area of the curtilage that is protected by the condition, and it doesn't apply to liberating the rest of the site. And I think number 8 that they've just read out has answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cripps. Councillor Stanley.
I failed to, I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, I failed to respond to any circumstances that I do know the applicant, and I will be abstaining on this one. Thank you.
Can that be noted, please? No, that's fine. No, that's fine. We all make mistakes, or we all have oversights. Councillor Mrs Mason.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask 2 questions? I noted that that's going to become the residential curtilage, but will it still retain its green belt status?
Yes, the site would still be located within the green belt.
So they couldn't build out onto the rest of the site?
We've imposed a condition which does control extensions and outbuildings, and so removes what is the permitted development rights to be able to do
Thank
that,
you. That
on
was
the
my
site.
next
We have a
question. So the
condition
permitted
on
development right has been removed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chairman. Having listened to the report and having read it, it strikes me that this removes dilapidated buildings, arguably improves the site, and given the conditions, I'd move for approval.
Thank you. Have you a seconder, Councillor Belton? So we have a motion to approve, and we have a seconder, Councillor Belton. Members, we have the motion on the table for approval. Can I please have a show of hands for approval on this application, please? Everyone except Councillor Stanley. So it's 9, isn't it? 11. So it's 11-4, and as already indicated, 1 abstention. Thank you. This application has been approved. Thank you, members. I now close the meeting at, and I haven't got, what's the time? It is 9:04. 9:04. Thank you, members.